What separates the top 1% of agents from everybody else? It's not luck, it's strategy, mindset, and relentless execution. On today's episode of the Wolfpack Podcast, I'm sitting down with my close friend, Victor, a top producing agent in not only Ohio, but now Florida. Whether you're thinking about getting licensed or you've already been grinding it out for years in the industry, even if you're just running your own business and you've been searching for that competitive edge, this conversation is loaded with insights that you do not want to miss. Before we hop into this episode, if you're serious about not only real estate, but your entrepreneurial journey, whether that's in a service-based business or if it's strictly just dedicated to sales, go ahead, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, and let me know where you're at in your own journey. Let's go. We're live, bro. What I like to do kind of to kick it off, obviously, I know you pretty well. I know your story pretty well. But if you can just give you like quick 60-second rundown of who you are and kind of what you're doing right now in life, man.
Yeah, so my name is Vic. I am a full-time realtor here in Tampa, Florida. I'm also licensed in Ohio, and I do business in Ohio as well. I honestly, my main lead generation is cold calling. That's where all of my listings come from. I mainly work with sellers 99.9% of the time. And I just moved here to Tampa in 2 months, or 2 months ago, not even. Yeah. And I have about 2 properties under contract and 3 in the market.
Dude, that's so insane. So many people can't even fathom that. And that kind of leads me into my first question. I like to kick it all, bro. Is like, I know you were killing it up in Ohio, right? What was how many properties did you sell last year?
So in 2025, I did 33 sales. 25 of them were sellers, 8 of them were buyers. And you have to understand that in Ohio, the average price point is about $250K. Yep. Moving down to Tampa, we're in the $350, $450 range, depending where you're at, it even gets higher. So just from me moving and 2 deals closing at around $330, $340, I'm already making double the income I would have made in Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah. And I think that's insane to think about. Most people can't even fathom picking up, you're killing it in real estate. So right. I guess leads into my follow-up question is like, you were obviously killing it up there. Why pack everything up and move to a whole new city?
Yeah, that's a great question. Sometimes I think, if I just stayed in Ohio, I could have always worked my way up to higher price points, things like that. I've lived there my whole life, so I get all the 4 seasons. I've been through the snow and the winter, my whole life. So it's like I'm used to it. But ever since, of course, joining Alexis's group and, kind of communicating with a lot of people in the group that are from Florida. So since I came to Tampa for the first event ever and I met everyone, I kind of fell in love with the positivity, the energy. I loved everybody. Obviously the weather was great. Just Tampa was cool in general. And that's where the thought of moving here came up. And a lot of time went by when we went to the Miami Mastermind, that most recent Miami Mastermind. Alexis basically called me out. He's like, bro, you're not making decisions quick enough. And there's a certain extent of making decisions quick enough. You obviously want them to be educated. They have to make sense. But he's totally right. Because ever since that mastermind, I went back home and I came back to Tampa the next week and we toured apartments. I signed the lease. 2 weeks later, I moved.
Yeah. And what would you attribute that decision-making process towards? Like, have you always made decisions like that? Or was it getting the mentorship, surrounding yourself by, like-minded people, and that kind of pushed you into obviously changing the way that you think?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Just like most people, right? Everyone who joins the academy, the biggest concern is that they don't have the funds or it's either they say it's too expensive versus how am I going to make this work, right? There's those 2 ways of thinking, and that's huge. And that plays a big role in everything in life. So ever since joining the academy and in spending money that I didn't have with a credit card and kind of figuring out how am I going to pay for it, I already kind of started thinking that way ever since I joined the academy. But being integrated in the academy, having these very, top-notch mindset conversations very often with a lot of like-minded people definitely helped me change my point of view in the way that I think, of course.
Yeah. And then obviously you've been very successful both in Ohio and cracking into the Tampa market.
Sure.
Take a step back and we look at your success in Ohio, do you just attribute that to maybe lack of competition in Ohio, or did you attribute that to the communication skills that you've developed over the time?
Honestly, I think I can speak for most people. Whatever state that you go into, if there are for sale by owners or even expired listings, which there's gonna be, because not everybody has FSBOs, most people don't cold call FSBOs. We know that because it's hard. They don't know what to say. It's discouraging. But even if they do it, they're probably not communicating at a high level like we are, and knowing how to handle objections, knowing how to negotiate. So because of joining the group and learning how to communicate at a high level and just overall learning how to handle objections, that is the biggest contributor of how I was able to move and start picking up listings right away. No problem.
Yeah, and I think that's huge. I think so many people sleep on that. Like, first of all, so many people are scared to cold call, right? But they're only scared to cold call because of their lack of communication skills. Like,
exactly.
If they, and I don't want to paint the picture like it's easy, because it's definitely not easy, right?
It's
like,
not.
Daily, how many calls would you say you make?
So I think that's a very, very big topic because it's consistency, right? You're almost saying, how consistent am I? How many calls am I making consistently?
Exactly.
It's not consistent. I'm just going to be very honest with everyone.
I love that.
It is not 100%. Consistent. And for the most part, like for example, I ripped maybe 20 dials, had 14 conversations, set 4 listing appointments. That was just a hot day. That's insane numbers. But because I had 4 appointments, I now have to prepare for those appointments, right?
Yes.
So I'm still learning how to construct my day on a day-to-day basis and how to use my time wisely. It's very easy to get distracted by this. It's very easy to get distracted by other things and thinking we're moving the needle forward, but we're not.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing I've learned was just making your schedule as simple as possible. If all I know that I need to do is just make calls and follow up, and that's it, how can I lose, right?
100%.
So I would say, to kind of answer your question, I strive for at least 10 conversations a day.
Yeah, and I think what you said there is like perfect. So many people kind of settle for, it's like, oh, I made 20 dials, but it's like, if you made 20 dials, had 0 conversations, did that really move the needle forward? You know?
Exactly.
It didn't. And we even see it in the academy sometimes. It's like these people, they make 100 dials, they said 0 appointments. It's like, because you only had 5 conversations. And you have to, and this kind of leads into it, like, how important is it to be tracking these numbers to understand, to get yourself a repeatable system that actually works?
It's very important. I honestly don't even use a CRM. Like, I don't use Follow Up Boss, nothing. I use a Google Sheet. I'm definitely lacking. I have the ability to use Follow Up Boss, and I don't do it. So I'm definitely going to change a lot of things in 2026 to make it easier for myself and have some kind of accountability, like a follow-up system through Follow Up Boss. I would say tracking the numbers, you're just simply going to see how many people you're calling and how many people are answering, right? How many conversations you're having, but which are turning into, closed-minded category, follow-ups, appointment set, or voice messages left. Those are really the only categories that there are. And I think the biggest thing, Luke, is that people who call expireds, I know a lot of people who make a lot of money from expireds. They have a lot of success. But me personally, when I was calling expireds, no pickups, right? Very, very, very low percentage of pickups. So if I rip expireds for an hour and then I go rip FSBOs for an hour, I mean, I almost feel like I'm wasting my time by calling them expireds because I know I'm going to get pickup rates for sale by owners. Yeah,
and that's the same boat that I was in. Like, it was like, dude, you can rip 100 expires, and you'll be so lucky if you even have 2 to 3 conversations, because at the end of the day, they're frustrated, they're flustered, and their phone has already been blown up. Then you move to a FSBO, and it's like, those are the people raising their hands saying that they need help. They may not know that, but then that's where your communication ability comes in. That's where all of those factors start to play a part. And I think for you, right, and I want to take a little step back. Obviously, you weren't a successful realtor at the beginning, right? So kind of like walk me through, what was the beginning of your real estate journey and where did things kind of start to change for you?
Yeah, so even when I joined Alexis's group, there was like 3-4 months where I was, not being consistent in the role play rooms or even the coaching calls, nothing. I wasn't being interactive. Ever since I started being more interactive in the group, I finally took the script, learned the script, and then also put it in my own words. And there was one point in time where I was very consistent. I was starting to sound really good on the phone. And I started setting appointments, but there was still something missing, something lacking, right? And Alexis made a video of, taking word for word every single thing that I said on my call and just breaking it down. And that was like a light bulb effect where I'm like, okay, I now know I'm using positive framing, negative framing, identity labeling, all these different things. And these are kind of like psychological tactics used within the call for them to, lower their guard and be open to meeting with you. Mm-hmm. I would say that this is just, unfortunately, it's one of those things, Luke, where it's just like the simple things of practicing every single day. I coach some of the agents, and I've helped some of the agents in our group. And a lot of times they're doing amazing when we're one-on-one, but when their one-on-one ends, are they going out and role-playing with ChatGPT? Are they in the role-play rooms? Are they reading it by themselves? Are they tweaking their script? And then are they actually just making the calls and failing because that's part of the game? So I think that's the biggest problem, is that we all want accountability, and that's amazing, but there's just no other way than to hold yourself accountable. Yeah,
I think that's perfect. And a lot of people, I think that's a great way to put it, because like you said, you get hands-on coaching, like you understand and you see that, everybody's great when it's, just me and you role playing, right? It's so easy, especially when you start getting comfortable. And that's the biggest thing, is like you're comfortable. You're not in an uncomfortable zone forcing you to change. So what do you think is separating the agents that are in a comfort zone and then go out into the world and they aren't setting the appointments versus the people that are stepping outside their comfort zone and actually seeing the results they want to see?
I think there's a couple different categories. You have agents who take the script and say, I need to perfect the script before I start making calls. And then they're going through a cycle of, oh, it's not perfect enough. I'm still reading it. I'm still practicing it. And then they're just stuck in that cycle. Even if they're role playing, even if they're practicing, they aren't making real life calls. Yeah. And then you have the people who are role playing, right? They're practicing, but for whatever reason, when they go and make the calls, they're just either not using the script, or they're always trying to change something. They're always trying to find a new script to use. Yes. And it's like, you don't know what script works until you used it long enough, right? Mm-hmm. And then you have the agent who practices the script, starts making the calls right away, and critiques the script and what they are kind of failing on, and practicing that so that next time they get on the phone call, they are practicing that new issue that they're having, and they're overcoming that objection. So I'd say the biggest problem is that people just are not jumping right into it.
Yeah, I think so many people, and I mean, we see it in the academy so many times, is like, they don't feel comfortable with the script yet, and honestly, that's like the biggest thing I see is like, oh, I'm not comfortable with the script yet, I don't want to make the call. But it's like, it's at the end of the day, the script is just for the people that are first getting into this, right? Exactly. You're going to jump into a call and no conversation ever goes just like the script. And I think you can agree that you've taken hundreds of calls. I think maybe the script doesn't change for your first 30 seconds. You kind of use the same, pattern interrupts, lower the sales resistance, all of that stuff. But once you get into the conversation, it's just a conversation. It really is. And these people are like, they overthink it way too much. So I think tactically, that's a great answer that you gave it to, is like, just make the calls.
No, that's exactly right. And what you said was important. It's a conversation. So Daniel G mentioned, it's a push-pull effect throughout the whole entire conversation. And a lot of times, if you call up TJ or Alexis or anybody, you know what I mean? Or, if you're having a conversation that way, it's like you and your boys are talking. You're probably not going to talk that same way to a prospect, but there's a middle ground of just having a normal conversation. 100%. It's like, for example, when somebody says something bad happened in their life during the call, and you're not acknowledging it and just saying, okay, well, what does the closing process look like? They instantly know it's very salesy. So people have to stop thinking about what they're going to say next and being so salesy and all about the appointment, when we just have to have a conversation and just to see if it even makes sense for us to meet. Because 100%. It's how quickly can I disqualify you over the phone so I can call the next person.
No, that's a freaking great way to put it. And I like to get a little bit tactical, because obviously you've become, I would say, a master of the phone. You've really become really super tactical, and you've really understand what it takes to start getting. I mean, you moved from Ohio to Tampa and started getting listing appointments right away, right? Yeah. So for you, what do you feel like? Obviously, we'll take away the consistency or the lack of making the calls, but once you make the calls, what do you feel like people are overthinking most?
I honestly think they're overthinking what they're going to say, because what's the most important thing when we're talking to any human is listening to what they're saying, right?
Yes, active listening.
Actively listening based on what you tell me, I'm going to start thinking about how I'm going to reply to you, for example. So instead of just kind of rushing the call and just trying to be like, per script, I have to say this, this, and this, and that, you know, the call is going to go very differently. Like you said, there's no perfect script that's going to go exactly like every single call. And so I think most people aren't actively listening, and they're just kind of going right into what they're going to say next. And then that obviously kind of ruins the conversation when you could have used anything that you said as leverage, or there was a very strong pain point and motivation of why you're selling, why you need to move, why you need to net the most amount of money. Those are so important to understand during the call and then to bring back up.
I think you just touched on a point that I definitely want to touch on as well, is like, how important is it, and this is where it gets a little bit more tactical, right? When you're inside of that call, how important is it to understand the pain point?
Yeah. So because you brought this up, I'm going to compare Ohio to Tampa, or just to Florida, right? In Ohio, what I understood is most people really needed to sell, right? For whatever reason, I don't know if it's the income level or whatever the case is, but the people there really needed to sell. They were way more motivated to selling their home, even if it obviously meant hiring a realtor. Here in Florida, what I'm understanding is that a lot of people, they either just have more money, maybe they're retired, they just aren't in much of a rush to sell. It's, hey, I'm retired, I can do the showings on my own, I'm not in any hurry, I'm just gonna keep the house, rent the house. So if we're not painting a good enough picture or creating enough urgency of why they need to hire a realtor to get it sold for more money than they can on their own, then we're never gonna have that kind of appointment. And honestly, we simply cannot win them all. Maybe it doesn't make sense for that person to sell. You know, maybe their only choice is to have an agent bring a buyer because they can't afford to pay more commissions than what they owe on their home. So I think the problem is that it's just so situational. Even with expireds, even with FSBOs, like it just comes down to it being the situation and learning how to pivot from the situation.
Yeah, and I think you said something as well that I want to touch on, is like, how important is it to understand that some clients are just not going to be a good fit, right? I think so many people get into sticky situations, especially with a FSBO, especially when they're newer. They show up to the house, they pitch them on this, and they're like, they agree to a price that they know they can't sell the house for, and then they put themselves in an uncomfortable position, and then they kind of taint their reputation when they just should have never taken the listing. So how important is it to understand that not every client is going to be a good fit for you?
I think that's like 90% of what you need to find out on the call is that. So here's what I actually put into the group chat today. I did a voice note to another student, and I said, look, you know, you want to have that call and make sure that, let's say you set the appointment that same day or the day later or 24 hours before the appointment, do a little bit of research and see how far off are they on their price. What do people, what do people focus on the most is the price, how much they're going to walk away with the price. And so if you, Luke, are selling a home for $800,000 and I do my research and I see it's only $750 is pushing it. If I don't call you prior to our appointment and confirm that, Luke, if I position your home in the best way, but that means having to lower the price point of when we list it on the market, would you at least be open-minded to that? As long as you came out with a great result, would you at least be open-minded to that? If you're like, no, I'm firm on 800K, I don't care, I'm just gonna keep it, I don't need to do anything, I'm not gonna go on that appointment. Why would I? Right? Because if I already know that you're not gonna even be open-minded to seeing what I have, and if it even made sense to you, you still wouldn't want to go down from the 800K, then I'm going to waste a lot of my time. And I've done that. Back in Ohio, we all have to go through that to learn. I've wasted a lot of time, and now I've saved myself a ton of time by being able to just be honest, And they appreciate it too, obviously.
Yeah. No, obviously, because I mean, you're not only saving your time, but you're saving their time as well. Because at the end of the day, you list it too high, you sit on the market for 30, 60 days, and they become an expired, and now they're even more frustrated than the point that they started out with. Because if they're overpriced, like, it's not going to sell, and they're going to have to reach out to an agent, right?
Exactly.
And typically how I like to, obviously leading into the next question would be, how many people underestimate that? Like, I think people have this preconceived notion of like FSBOs, like they can do it on their own, but it's like, how many FSBOs do you see that maybe you don't touch that end up listing with an agent? Yeah.
So this is the biggest controversy, in my opinion, with for sale by owners. A FSBO can easily sell their home on their own, 100%. They don't need an agent technically to sell their home. But 100%. What happens is that right now they're listed on Zillow for sale by owner. They're literally exposing it to agents like us. agents who cold call for a living, investors, wholesalers, and a very, very few amount of buyers, or agents who actually have buyers. Every single call I make, I'm very honest. I'm not bringing them a direct physical buyer. It's based on how I do my marketing, my sales. I specialize in listing homes. I work with dozens of for sale by owners. And honestly, most of the times, they allow me to go to their home and meet with me because I am honest about it. Unlike a lot of other people use that, I have a buyer, I'd like to tour the home, I can't bring them because I don't know what your house looks like, just to get their foot in the door. And then there's still uncertainty and a little bit of dishonesty involved. So a FSBO can sell their home on their own. It's just probably not going to be for the amount of money they could be selling it for. And I explain that to a lot of sellers, is that right now they're exposing it to the wrong crowd of people. I'm bringing buyers to their door because I'm marketing it the right way, pricing it the right way to where it's attractive enough to other agents who are working with buyers to bring those buyers to the door. And now we negotiate aggressively, communicate at a high level, and get the deal done, obviously.
100%. And I think you answered it within there, but I want to touch on it again. Was like, how do you get past, everybody has this preconceived conception of like these people that are cold calling them, like, they hate agents, so I don't want to work with an agent. So how do you separate yourself from the 99% of the people that are calling them and actually get your foot in the door?
Yeah. So one of the things that I mentioned was just being honest and letting them know that I specialize in working with for sale by owners, and I only list properties. Right. And the way that I ask questions, where it's like, is it a horrible idea as long as you net the most amount of money? They want to make the most amount of money. If I'm painting the picture that if my strategies are going to clearly show you that you're going to make more money than doing it on your own, you would just be honest with me and let me know, right? And of course they're going to say yes. So it's like the way that I communicate my whole point across of meeting with them and why we're meeting is my strategies have worked for other people. I don't see why it wouldn't work for you. Let's meet for 15 to 30 minutes, see if it works, and you'll be honest. And that's it. And most of the time, they're open to it.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to put it. And what would you say, and obviously I know the answer because I've dealt with the FSBOs, but what would you say are the top two objections that you continually have to overcome on these calls?
So it's funny because you're going to get different objections on the phone and different objections in person, right?
Exactly.
On the phone, you're going to get a lot of, I already have a friend that's an agent. I have a family member that's an agent. I don't want to pay your, a commission. I only want to pay a buyer's agent commission. I don't want to pay a listing agent commission. They want to wait 30 days before interviewing somebody. And that's really what it is that they could just do it on their own.
Yeah.
And for the most part, they're not wrong with majority of those things. And I understand why they wouldn't want to pay more money, to agents if they don't have to. But while you're in person, a lot of times they kind of say similar things like, hey, I like what you had to present, but I kind of want to wait a little bit more. Because what are they thinking when they're first listing it on the market? I'm going to probably sell this home without having to use a listing agent. All these agents are going to come to me with buyers, but that's not what happens. And then now they're stuck in the cycle of being on the market, on Zillow, off market for 30, 60, 90 days plus. And then they finally start interviewing agents when they realize.
100%.
So I would say the biggest problem is that they're gonna basically ask us agents, why would I hire you? Like, what do you do differently, right? If every other agent does the same exact thing, and I tell these people, I'm like, listen, Luke, every other agent is going to do the same exact thing. Lockbox on the door, sign in the yard, photos, video, all of those things. But the number one thing is obviously pricing the home correctly and knowing how to market the property efficiently. So that when I'm communicating at a high level with other agents, we're having good conversations. I'm able to make your property the obvious choice for their client to want to purchase. A lot of times there's certain topics that get, blown out of proportion when it's really not that big of a deal. And it's almost just being able to have that communication skills with speaking to agents and kind of explaining why it's not a big deal, especially when you're going into the inspections, right?
100%. And I think obviously it's a great answer and
long
answer, but still it's tactical, and that's the point of this. And how important is it, not like, to make sure your communication skills are on point, not just for when you get in the door for the seller, but when you're talking to other agents, right? Like, how important is it to, it sounds naive, but like to be better than them, right? To kind of manipulate them into a way that obviously is separating you from the 99% of the other agents that would like come in the door and just, put a lockbox on there and shoot a cool video.
Right. Yeah. Now listen, you got to remember, right? They're bringing a buyer. I have the seller. We both want to get this deal done. Like they want to get paid. I want to get paid. The seller wants to get paid. The buyer wants to buy a new home. So if I am thinking in the mindset of, Luke, let's just collaborate on this together. Let's do everything that we can in our power to satisfy both of our clients. Of course, you have different due diligence than I do, but we can work together to make this happen. And a lot of agents aren't really like that. They're kind of standoffish. They're a little too aggressive. Some are just unprofessional, and it is what it is,
Yeah,
So
100%.
I would say when you're communicating with another agent, that's huge. One big tip that I explain to sellers is that when we're putting it on the market, and Luke, let's pretend that you're an agent, you bring a buyer. I am contacting you 20 to 30 minutes right after your showing to get feedback and find out if your client has interest. Because if I call you 24 hours later, a day later, you might have showed 5, 10, 15, 20 homes, and you're just going to forget about my listing.
Exactly.
And you're either going to lie to me and just be like, yeah, it just not a good fit. Or you're going to be like, yeah, man, I'm sorry. Like, I don't remember. So that is, I think, a huge piece of advice for agents that are listing homes is to try to get feedback in knowing if there's interest right away, so that if you have to pivot something on the home, you can do so in a timely manner. And you're updating your seller so it but you're actually working for them, like consistently.
100%. And just keeping an open line of communication, that's huge. And I even see it with the expireds I talk to. It's like, okay, why didn't this house sell? Well, our agent put a lockbox on the home. They did a few open houses, and we never heard any feedback. And it's like, that's insane to think about. But that's unfortunately the industry we're in, and it's anybody and their mom can get a real estate license, right? That is the truth, right? But what separates, the 99% from the 1% is the communication skills, is the understanding of the marketing, like real, true, deep understanding. So again, I think that's a great answer. And for you, in your own opinion, what do you feel like are two things? And I kind of already know the answer, but I want you to tell everybody, like, what are the two things that really get a house sold?
So marketing and sales, right? But that's very vague. That's that's kind of a vague answer. In terms of marketing, the more eyes you have on the property, the more opportunity someone's going to talk about it or show somebody else, or an agent sees it and like, oh, my client's actually looking in this area. Let me send it to my client. So exposure, number one. And then the sales part of it / marketing is just simply pricing the home correctly. Because this is what happens. A lot of people, especially FSBOs, they take the route of pricing higher because they already know they're going to have to be negotiated with, right? Someone's going to negotiate their price, and they're trying to say that they're going to have to pay commission. So they're going high so that they can kind of get somewhere a little bit lower, knowing they have to pay commissions and negotiate. That works off market. It's not a big deal on off market. Who cares? But when you're on the market, the problem starts where you start high and you slowly reduce, and people start to see that you keep reducing and nothing's happening with your home. So there must be something wrong.
Exactly.
Even if there's nothing wrong with your house. So pricing the home correctly from the very beginning is so important. And honestly, not to backtrack, but setting expectations is also like the number one thing. Because this is what it's like. If it's like, Luke, these other homes in these different locations, they went under contract in 10 days. I don't want to set that expectation that that's going to happen to you. I'm looking at the market, the average days. We have all these properties that are sitting right now on the market, 50, 60, 100 days. They're probably still priced wrong, and that's why they're sitting. Even if I'm seeing in showing time, there's a bunch of showings happening. It's just, it's always going to be the price. Everyone will purchase any home if the price is right.
And I think that's a great way to put it, is like obviously positioning it as the number one choice in the local area, right? And so many people think because they're pricing it lower, they're undercutting, but it creates traction, it creates eyes on the property, right? And I think setting the expectation is golden, and so many people need to look back and understand that. It's like, don't go into something and set these unrealistic expectations, because you not only put your seller in a tough spot, but you put yourself in a tough spot, right?
Reputation.
That's
what people do, is they come to the appointment. They're like, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. and I'm going to do this. I'm going to put you in the magazine, on TV, you're going to be on the news, you're going to be everywhere. And then none of this shit happens. And it's like, well, hey, like you said this and this, and I'm not seeing these results. So I would rather just tell them what it is. What is it called? I'm just like fried today, but it's, it's like not over promising and under delivering. It's the opposite of that. It's under promising, and over delivering. There we go. So I would rather under promise and over deliver all day long, because now I look like, oh wow, like Victor's amazing.
Yeah, you look like a hero.
Exactly. There was one thing I wanted to say, which you brought up, was that, you know, just because you start at a lower price doesn't mean you're undercutting the home. You have to understand that the market tells us what we need a price at, not what I feel, not what the seller feels or thinks. I would love to price your home for $100 million if I could, because we all get paid more money. But obviously, if the market's telling me your home is in this price range based on comps, and there's a lot of times where it's hard because there may not be any comps. So what do you do then? You kind of got to go back further. Or you got to have it widen your radius. I think as a realtor, it's very important to have a mentor who's very successful in buying and selling homes, so that they can teach you how to do your research efficiently. Because I've been to many appointments where they're showing me other realtors' comps, and if we're looking at a 3-bed, 2-bath, they're showing them 4-bed plus whatever. You know, that's already technically not a comp.
Not even close.
Or they're looking at their neighbor's house, which is a different style home, different square footage, different year built. Like, there's obviously a frame or a section of, like, you know, how low and how high can you go between where you're at, and some people just like blow that out of proportion.
100%, and they set the unrealistic expectation, and then they end up as an expired, and then we're cold calling them. So it's like it's a cyclical cycle. And you mentioned something I've been meaning to touch on, and I kind of forgot, but like, how important has mentorship been, right? I think a lot of people sleep on it. A lot of people don't understand. And it's hard to pitch to people too when they're in a tough financial spot and you're telling them to invest, and they're like, oh, I've seen so many scams, I've seen so many this and that. But it's like, truly take a step back. Like, how important has it been to invest into your business, coaching, and mentorship?
Yeah, and it's super important, and it's not just real estate. I'd say it's your whole entire life. Right. And what I mean by that is, you know, with fitness, me starting my fitness journey, I hired a coach in person. And then I started hiring coaches online for diet, for everything. And so when it comes to mindset and communication and anything else you can think of in life, if someone is able to do it better than you can, or is doing it better than you are, in my opinion, I would want to know how to do it at that level as well. And I would pay them money so that I can also operate or do it or learn it or have that skill and knowledge at that level. So I think what happens is people join mentorship programs where it's just, it looks flashy, right? It's kind of like that shiny object syndrome. And the person isn't actually operating at that high of a level, right? And they don't actually have that knowledge and skill. So it's like us listening to people who aren't at the level that we want to be at and taking their advice. It just doesn't make sense. And I think that happens all the time. And to kind of go deeper into this, right? A lot of people, they listen to their family members. They listen to their friends who are nowhere near where they're trying to go or don't have the same vision. And I get it. It's your family, it's your friends. But if you want to change, then, and they're not in that level, in that position, then how could you even, you know, take their guidance? I'm open to listening to anyone all day long, but it's not necessary that I'm going to take their advice and use it.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. And obviously, like, your environment determines a lot. And I've firsthand witnessed it. I've witnessed it with other people. And even for you, like, moving from Ohio to Tampa, it's changed your work ethic. It's changed 100%. The drive that you have. So how important is it to surround yourself not just by individuals that are like-minded, but people who are doing better than you? Yeah,
it's very important. And obviously, I think is when you put yourself in new environments, not even like being surrounded by a bunch of millionaires and successful people, just simply being in a new environment, humans tend to start thriving more, especially if you're in a positive environment, obviously. But, you know, coming down to Tampa, good weather, Everyone is very health conscious here. I'm
Yes.
into fitness. I like to look good. I like to work out. I like money. I like success. The biggest thing is that a lot of people here in Florida, a lot of people are winning. Okay.
Yeah.
So if everyone's winning,
Yeah.
they're not going to be as jealous or want to see you kind of put you down. They're going to, they're going to root for you. You know, they'll be
Yes.
like, okay, this dude's actually like grinding. He's doing something different. I respect it. Right.
Yes.
Versus what happens is with people, let's say back in your hometown, I'm not even going to say Ohio because this can be for anybody, but back in your own hometown, you may have friends that are not happy for you because they're embarrassed that they potentially can't do it. They don't have the mindset of maybe wanting to do that or thinking that they have something better in themselves. And so they're going to become your biggest hater, where you think they should be your biggest supporter. So most of the times, you know, it's unfortunate, but you know, your haters are probably going to be the people closest to you.
Unfortunately.
You know, like your family, your friends, things like that. And the people who are rooting for you are the ones that are probably doing better than you.
Yeah.
And that's huge to understand, bro.
100%. And I think so many people, man, like getting stuck in like the hometown syndrome where it's comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, you go to the same school as these people, you grew up together, you guys watch each other grow up, but it's like we're adults now. Like things change, things really change, and you understand. And that's when you kind of like, and everyone uses that statistic, like 99% and the 1%, but like you can see it, man. Like it really is a 1%er's game, and that's what we're trying to be. You know, I always use a sports analogy because that's what I can relate it to the best. It's like, you know, we're the people who are trying to go pro. We're trying to be the pros, right? We're not trying to play amateurs. We're not trying to play minors. Like we're trying to be the pros. So obviously, what do the pros do? They surround themselves by the pros. They get training. They get mentorship. So I think that's huge, and a lot of people just don't really understand that, and unfortunately they get stuck in a cyclical cycle around people who don't want to see them thrive, which sucks. It really does.
I think this is another very important topic, is telling people your goals, telling everybody what you're up to, what you're doing, what's going on. And why I say that is because obviously choose wisely of who you're telling your goals to, what you're up to, what you're doing. I don't know why or how or whatever. I don't know why I thought this, but when I took my test for Florida to get my real estate license for Florida, I did not tell once. I only told my personal trainer. I told Alexis, and that's it. I think I told 2 people and my team leader, Tito. So I told 3 people, not my family, not my girl, not my friends, no one. I went and passed it first try. And then I tell everybody to celebrate. And it makes the feeling even 10 times better. Because you didn't tell a bunch of people and then you failed it and now you look like a dumbass. And it's okay to look like that. It's okay. But here's the thing, right? I recently got a new car. I didn't tell anybody. Because first of all, I mean, for me, it's an upgrade and everything worked out. But I didn't tell anybody I was going to do it. I just did it. And now I'm like, hey guys, look, I did this and this. And I'm like, oh, congratulations. But you telling people, hey, I'm going to get a new car. I'm buying a new house, or I just bought a new home, or I'm about to go and take this test. They're either going to say, why would you do that? That's stupid. Or they'll be like, nice, bro, congratulations. And then they're secretly thinking, you know, silently, like, he's probably not going to pass it. And so I hate thinking that way, that like maybe your parents or your friends or the people closest to you may think that way. But once again, it always is going to go back to that same thing, that they just don't feel like they can do it or that they're capable of doing it. And that's why they think that way, because they don't want to see you being better than they are.
Exactly. And that's the society we live in. I think it is like you said, like you hate to think like that, but it's just the reality. It really is just the reality. It's your environment. Exactly. And you told the people obviously that mattered, you know, Alexis, Tito, like those are people in your life that are doing, like, I guess doing better than you, but they, and you know, and technically, but like, and that's what you're trying to reach. So it's like, they really understand what you're doing. They understand the grind. They understand the hustle. So it's like, even if you did fail, it's like, okay, they probably failed too. And that's a good thing to kind of talk about, is like, how important are the failures? Like, I think so many people get caught up on the failures, but they're so important.
Yeah, imagine you get licensed, because this does happen. Honestly, this happens, and I'm not a hater. Like, at the end of the day, getting a contract to close still takes work and effort and whatever. It still takes some kind of effort and ability to make it happen. But there's a lot of agents who get licensed and right away they get listings handed to them. They get work handed to them, and they start blowing up and making a bunch of money and becoming successful. And I'm assuming over the course of time, they're learning, they're sharpening their skills, but they probably also haven't gone through a bunch of failure. So when something little pops up that's a failure or something goes wrong, they may go crazy. They may not know how to handle it. So I would rather kind of start from ground up and build and understand that, oh, I've already been through this. I've already failed. I've already gone through this hardship. So this is nothing. I know I'm going to be able to handle this. So the failure, and here's the thing, right? Let's take it to another level with failure. It's not even failures. They're simply just lessons.
Yes.
It's never like I lost or I failed. It's like, okay, like this just didn't work out right now. Why didn't it work? What could I have done better? And let's take it as a lesson and now work to grow. And next time I'm going to make it better, or I'm going to make it happen. So I think it's just always mindset. And for whatever reason, I don't know, maybe I believe this was when I was in the group, but I've always had a mindset that no matter what happens bad, I just know there's a positive reasoning behind it somehow.
Exactly.
Even the worst things in the world, there's always something that kind of good comes from it. And so if you can always think in a positive way, then you're always going to somehow win in life.
Yeah, I think the only time the only time you can really label it as a failure if you quit. That's the only time it really becomes a failure.
Exactly.
Right? Like if you lay down the sword and you're like, I'm done, like that is when you can say you failed. But so many people, and obviously the high level people, the higher income earners, the high achievers, bro, they failed so much. Like they've failed so much. But it's like when you take a step back, the world didn't end. You still got a roof over your head. You're still breathing fresh air. You're okay. It's going to work out.
Because you brought up successful people and how many times they failed, you have to also remember it took time. It literally took maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years, maybe 15 years until they started actually blowing up and being successful. And that's the biggest problem. Honestly, that's probably the biggest problem in our society. Everybody wants instant gratification, and I don't blame them. I want that shit too. I want a Lamborghini Urus. I want the penthouse. I want to fucking spend money and not have to worry about income. But that's what's great about the grind and the hustle is literally going through the hardship, right? Going through the hard times, struggling with money, making it happen because I'm working for myself. No one tells me when I'm going to take lunch, how long I can be in the bathroom for, if I, wanted to sleep in, whatever the case is. No one can tell me what to do, and I love it. And that's and that's kind of what you pay for. There's always a give and a take. Of course.
Exactly. I think that's such a good way to put it. I think so many people, especially even now, like I bet somebody will watch this and be like, oh, that guy's an overnight success. Oh, that guy moved to Tampa, he's an overnight success. But it's like they don't see everything that went into it. They don't see the failures. They don't see the listings that fell through. They don't see the people that told you to fuck off. They don't see all the no's on the phone, right? Yes. So really understanding the fact that there is going to be delayed gratification because anything good, anything great is not going to come overnight. It really doesn't. Like, look at anybody. What's
crazy is social media, right? Is everybody posts their wins. Everybody talks about, everybody always posts and talks when they're happy, when they're winning, compared to like, hey guys, I fucking overslept today. I didn't get my steps in. I didn't reach my macro goals, and I kind of feel like shit about it. But you know what? I'm grateful that I'm awake, that I was able to work today. I was able to, it's just good to have these conversations because a lot of people are super hard on themselves. And I am too. And you kind of have to be to a certain extent. But you also have to remember that you could just sit there with guilt and shame, or you can figure out, okay, I fucked up. How am I going to now move forward and kind of move past this, right?
Yeah, I think so many people, and I wouldn't say it's like a weak mindset to have, but they get caught up in the fuck ups, right? They're like, oh, I slept in today, so the whole day's gone. It's like,
exactly.
The day isn't over. There's 24 hours in a day. Maybe you slept in. Maybe you slept until 10. Okay, cool. What are you going to do for the rest of the day that's going to move the needle forward? Because there's a simple Japanese philosophy. I bring it up so much. It's called Kaizen, right? Simply just put, right? 1% better every day. Because 1% better every single day compounded over years and years is how you become a master at whatever you're doing. And so many people sleep on that.
And remember, 1% better doesn't mean, okay, I have to now get another listing. Like if I didn't get a listing today and I get a listing tomorrow, no, it means little, very small wins. Exactly. Making your bed, maybe reading one page in a book, doing a little bit of journaling, stretching,
Yes.
hitting the gym for 30 minutes to an hour. Those are all humongous wins because if you do that consistently and they compound, you're now basically disciplined in those things. It's just a problem where too many people take on too much stuff at once. They're like, you know what, like your New Year's resolution kind of people, right? The gyms are packed and like it's what is it? It's like the 14th right now, 14th, 15th?
Yeah, we're 2 weeks
It's the 14th? Okay,
Yeah.
I bet you people are starting to fall off on their goals and going to the gym because just because it went from December to January, nothing really changed at all, zero. It's just that philosophy of, okay, new year, new me, and that's amazing. But I think with the Kaizen thing and also like something Daniel G said is how can you quickly reset over and over and over again, right?
Yes.
So you had a bad call, reset, boom, kind of reframe and get back into the call. Or if I went on a listing appointment and I didn't get it and I can analyze it, why didn't I get it? Did I not qualify them enough over the phone? There's a lot of times that happens. Or did I not provide enough info? Did I mess up? Whatever the case is, it's like, you're right. Don't let it ruin your whole day. Just try your best to reframe from it. Take a walk, go to the gym, and then get back to work or do whatever you need to do. It's just in today's society, there's way too much hate. There's way too much negativity, too much distraction. And I just think if people can honestly just kind of have a tunnel vision, you're going to be a little bit more, opted into success than anybody else.
I think, bro, I mean, I know you took a lot away from that Daniel G when he spoke, but like one of the things I took away was like being present, right? Just like being present in what you're doing. I think so many people, it's like, they don't put their phone on do not disturb. They don't just lock the fuck in. Like, cause when you're present is when you're performing at your best. And that's when you get into flow state. Like we always talk about, right? So like how important is it just being present in what you're doing?
I'm not going to lie, bro. I have that problem too with, I don't even want to call it ADHD or anything like that because there's no excuses, but it's not being present. I get distracted very often with my phone or even being in a relationship. That's huge. I'm always on my phone. My girl gets pissed, so it's like I have to have self-control with this government weapon, literally.
Yes.
And the less self-control I have, the more distractions I'm into and the less work I'm doing, right? Because everybody says this, it could be cliche, but what is one thing we all have in common with like billionaires and millionaires? We all have the same amount of time, right?
Exactly.
We all have the same amount of time, 24 hours.
Yes, 24 hours.
You choose how many hours you want to sleep. You choose when you go to bed. You choose your routine when you wake up. So it's like, literally, it's so simple. The most successful people just use their time way more efficiently than we do. That's it.
That's simple. As simple as that. And I think even leading into like the real estate side of things, right? I don't want to take up too much of your time.
No worries.
But how important is it to focus, and this goes out to new realtors, experienced realtors, people, what I like to call dinosaur realtors, people who have been in it for 20 years, like how important is it to just focus on what you do best and delegate the rest?
Yeah, it's obviously very, very important. And in terms of delegation, that topic, not everybody can delegate to the same level. And sometimes what I've learned from Alexis as well is you almost, if you don't have the money to delegate, you almost have to delegate by selling the vision of why someone should do this for you. Exactly. Whether that's like showing a home or doing an open house, right? Where you don't have to do it yourself, where you can continue prospecting or finding clients for your seller or for your listing, whatever the case is. I would say that two things. The delegation is huge because you're going and cleaning your car, you're cooking your food, you're doing all this and that, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. It just kind of depends on where are you trying to get to your goal. Like, what is your goal? And how many things can you cut out of your life so that you can do more work to get to that goal? That's kind of what it comes down to. And in terms of focusing, most people are focusing on more than one thing. And what I mean by that is, I'm going to sit here today, I'm like tomorrow morning, I'm going to start calling expireds, circle prospecting, foreclosures, for sale by owner, for rent by owner. I'm a door knock. I'm going to do social media. I'm going to do this, and that. And now I didn't put 100% into any category. I just did a little of all of them. So when I was a realtor and I started, when I became a realtor, I was doing open houses, working with buyers. I learned cold calling. I learned working with sellers. I said, you know what? I want to just primarily work with sellers. Okay.
Exactly.
Now, who am I calling though? I had to learn that part of it. I figured out that FSBOs just made the most sense for me. So I cut off literally everything else. You have a buyer, refer them to somebody you trust. You still make money. You put them in good hands. You didn't do shit.
Exactly.
That's it.
Yeah.
So if we all can just focus on one thing and try it for at least 2, 3, 4, 5 months, and if we're not pivoting and learning how to make that better, then okay, maybe it's not for you, right? Or maybe try it for a year. I don't want to tell you how long to try it for or not to try it for before, quote unquote, giving up. But if you've done everything and you've learned and you tried different things and you've reached out to mentorships, then maybe it's just not for you, right?
Yes.
Maybe it
100%.
wasn't destined for you. So try something different. I just think most people focus on way too many things at once.
Yeah, I think that's beyond a great point, and that's why we see like the crazy statistics of like first year realtors, like 80% rate of leaving the industry, and it's like because they never just dialed in on one thing, like
or they don't have the right mentorship.
And they don't have the right mentorship, exactly. And so many people sleep on that. They get into this, or they're mentored by the wrong people. That is also something that's very true too, because some people get a mentor and maybe they tell them, you know, do open houses, focus on social media, this, that, and the third. It's like, you have to understand is like, you can choose who to listen to. Obviously, you know, take everything with a grain of salt, but it's like, if that person's not doing what you want to do, why the fuck would you listen to them anyways? You know?
Exactly, brother.
It's not being cocky. It's just really understanding the position that you want to put yourself in.
Here's the thing about our mentorship of what we've learned with communication, right?
Yep.
Especially sales, all right?
Yeah.
I think that our communication skill goes such a long way to where, let's say I stop being a realtor, I can go and sell anything else because it's almost the same skill set, the same thing. It's just what you're selling is different. Yeah. And for the most part, you're really selling yourself the whole time for every industry. You know, people work with you because they trust you, they know you, right? And they refer you. They give you that opportunity because they like you and they trust you and they think that you're going to be that good fit, you know? So I think in terms of everything we talked about today, it doesn't just relate to real estate agents.
Yes.
This goes to literally anybody. And I also think, like, for example, because we talk about mentorship, like going to the gym, and you don't have to have a six-pack and be shredded and jacked, but literally like walking every day, being doing some kind of activity, physical activity is insanely important for your health. And if you think about it, let's say you're not in sales, maybe you don't care about your health as much, but when you are in sales, I think, and you know, people can maybe think differently, but I know this for a fact, people like working with people who obviously they feel like they can see that you're taking care of your body.
Exactly.
When I see somebody, and like I said, they don't have to be insanely bodybuilder fit, all this kind of physique. It's just, I know you take care of your body to some kind of extent, and I respect it. And so you're probably going to be a little bit more attentive to your work. Maybe you have a little bit more discipline in your work ethic and all these things. So if you can't control what you're eating, if you can't control, you know, what you're drinking, you can't control a lot of these different things, then it's just kind of hard to think like, how are you going to be able to control, you know, my home, selling my house or sales or this or that. So, and it's not true. People, you know, there's unfit people who do amazing with real estate and business and all that. I'm not trying to degrade anybody or say that it's not possible. It's just, that's the kind of society we live in.
100%. You know? And I think, like, to sum that up, is like, people buy people at the end of the day.
Right.
Like, that is what it is, right? And to be cutthroat, like, I think your image says a lot about you, right? Yeah. Having a clean haircut, being clean shaven, just taking care of yourself, because it's like, how am I supposed to trust this guy with my house if he has zero discipline? Like, literally right now, I don't even feel like the highest level of myself. I get a haircut every week. Once a week, I get a haircut, lineup, like beard lineup and stuff, trim, and a fade every single week. And it's still not enough, like just because my hair grows back so quick. But it's looking fresh 24/7 because it's an image. You are presenting an image to everybody. Like first impressions, right? That's humongous. People remember you because of the conversations you guys had when you first met.
or
Yes.
the gesture you did, because actions usually speak louder than words, right?
100%. Yes.
So honestly, brother, I think it's cool. I really respect what you do here. And, you know, bringing people on here, having these kind of conversations, because a lot of people, you know, that are on here are probably somewhat similarly, you know, similar in mindset, but we all have our own different ways of thinking, what we say,
100%.
what we believe, where we're at in our business, where we're at in life.
Yes.
I would say the biggest advice I could give to anybody else right now is to literally hire a mentor in any aspect of your life. Think about it. A therapist is technically some sort of a mentor, right?
Yeah,
I think
100%.
it's very, very important for your mind, physical, you know, business, whatever the case is. And then just simply, just like Hermosi says, right? Like literally doing as much as you can to where it's impossible that you fail.
Yes.
It's like, it's so difficult because it's so simple. Like literally success is so simple. It's just so difficult because we want it now. And we're not able to wait 5 years or 10 years if that's what it means. Right. And there's certain things people got to do. Like if you got to go and get a part-time job so that you have money coming in while you're still building your business, then do it. Or whatever you got to do, brother, do it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I think a lot of people just are not able to think outside of the box. And they're just kind of like fixated on there's only one way, for example. You know?
No, 100%. I think that's a great way to put it. I guess to wrap things up, and you kind of touched on it right there, but I want to reemphasize is like, what advice would you give to yourself maybe, you know, 5 years ago in a completely different position when you don't even know where the next paycheck's coming from, what life looks like? Like, what would you give advice to your younger self right now?
So, for example, 5 years ago, right? I was about 19, 20, just graduating high school. And I was still smoking weed every day, hanging around the wrong crowd of people. Didn't really know what I wanted to do in life, which is okay at that age.
100%.
But if you are in that same situation and you're in that kind of age range of 18, 19, 20, I highly suggest you start trying things. Try to become a realtor. Try to do your TikTok affiliate. Try a bunch of different shit until you feel like, okay, I really like this. I enjoy this. Because the number one thing that we cannot get back, the most valuable thing in the whole entire world is obviously time. And so the more time that goes on, the less time that you have to take risks. Imagine you have, like if I had kids in a family, you know, back in Ohio, 100%. That would be way more risky to move to a whole different state where where's the income coming from? Homes don't always sell. Things fall apart. Maybe it takes 30 days just to get into a contract and then another 30 to 45 days to close.
Exactly.
Just to get paid. So it's like, take the most amount of risks that you can as a younger person or or as a person that doesn't have a lot of liability and responsibility, and position yourself in an environment where people are going to help you thrive and grow, especially people who are doing much better than you are. And I'm not saying you got to stop drinking, stop smoking, whatever the addiction you have, but I would definitely say, bro, like I've been sober for over a year now.
Go for you, bro.
Probably 380 days or so. I stopped smoking weed. And it definitely set me back. You know what I mean? Like, I was smoking while even still cold calling and shit. And it's like, I would make the cold call, I'd be high, and I couldn't answer it because I feel like I'm not me anymore, you know, 100%. Or I fuck up on the call. So it's like, just simply figure out what is holding you back and how can you get out of it. That's it.
Simple, man. That's a great way to wrap things up, bro. Like I said,
sure,
appreciate you, bro. I know you've been a busy man, especially touching down in Tampa and killing it there.
Sir.
So like I said, bro, super appreciate you for all the knowledge, and a lot of people are going to find this very helpful. 100%.
I hope so. And yeah, if anybody wants to reach out to me, my Instagram is realty with Vic. DM me whatever questions you got. I'm more than happy to have a conversation.
Yes, sir. I'll also drop it in the description. Make it easy for them.
Appreciate you. Yes, sir.
Of course, brother. You take care.
All right. Thank you, Luke. You too.
Of course.